All right, everybody, welcome back into Cherry Picking. Today's video, we're going to be looking at the last series of the second round for us to break down, and that's going to be between the Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton Oilers are short favorites in this one. I have to say I'm very surprised with how easily the Vegas Golden Knights dismantled the Winnipeg Jets after that first game, because Jets won 5-1 in a very convincing fashion. I think they had everyone fooled that they were going to win this series, and maybe this was the year they surprisingly make a breakthrough, because I feel like the last couple of years that they have made the playoffs, they usually have really good regular seasons, and then all of it starts to dwindle away in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, that was shocking. I didn't see it going like that. Like, I didn't really have much respect for Winnipeg going into it, just because they fell off an absolute cliff in January. And it was kind of funny to see some people in the office celebrating like they won the first round after game one. But it is surprising for sure. And it's I'm wondering if like this Vegas team is legit or the Jets were just that bad. Mm-hmm. And I think like you saw that Hellebuck wasn't great, and even just stuff coming out after the series, like that core seems pretty rotten.
Yeah.
Winnipeg team?
Winnipeg, yeah. And there's got to be some bad blood, some sourness going on. Obviously Bonus's comments after weren't ideal timing, I would say. But Wheeler obviously took it very personally. He was upset about it. He spoke out to the media saying that he wished that he either addressed it earlier in the series or just behind closed doors kind of thing. So the Jets are done with this season. I think, it's ready to kind of turn over that roster a little bit. But looking at this series, we have the other Canadian team, the Oilers. I think the biggest talking point here for Edmonton, and it will be throughout the playoffs, and it always has been, is their goaltending and maybe lack of depth as well. But I think goaltending is the biggest one, because Skinner in that first round series against LA, his goal saved above expected was a -2.5, which was like 16th among goalies. And remember, there was a couple other goalies who started, so I think there were like 18 or 19 goalies. So bottom five, pretty much, performance from Skinner. We saw Jack Campbell come in and kind of save the day one of those games when they came back. But do you see, because the Golden Knights, I thought, played like a very smart game against Winnipeg after game one. Like, they locked up defensively. They ended up finishing first in expected goals against in 5-on-5. Mm-hmm. Now, credit to the Jets. Scheifele got hurt, Morrissey got hurt, and they just they seemed deflated after game three.
Yeah.
Do you think they can put on a similar defensive style or structure to limit McDavid and this Oilers team, even though it's obviously a much higher volume, way faster team, and kind of they're going to have to keep Brossoit protected, I would say, as best as they can, right?
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to that. I'm not sure if they can replicate it. What they should do is, I know the Kings didn't win that series, but they got to do the same sort of approach, because up until game three, like, the Kings were up 2-1 and had a 3-0 series lead going into the third period, right? Like, the Kings were doing a good job in that series, and I think their goaltending kind of let them down. And then with Vegas, you have Brossoit. Like, I don't know if we're going to get that. He was great. I think maybe he fed off a little bit of being called a backup goalie in the middle, hearing those chants. I don't know, but I don't know if they can do that. I don't think they're deep enough, really. Like, they have Mark Stone and stuff, but these guys are slower. Like, Edmonton is just so fast, and honestly, throughout the whole year, like, I haven't been huge on Vegas.
No, I haven't been either. They have been hurt a little bit, I will say. Like, Pietrangelo was out of the lineup for a bit. Shea Theodore was out of the lineup for a bit, and their core is built off those guys on the back end too. So that's the one thing I think. The defense on Vegas are going to be tougher to go up against than LA's. LA's, like, they have obviously Doughty, but they have some younger guys who I still think are a couple years away from being like fully developed. Vegas, you have Shea Theodore, you have Alec Martinez, and even Nick Hague, who I think plays on one of the bottom D pairs. Like, Shea Theodore, like, it's just a lot of really, really good players. So I think that'll be tougher for the Oilers, for one. But I think the biggest thing is Vegas going to be able to, one, limit McDavid, but then also at the same time, score goals. Because the first couple games of that series, their expected stats were really bad, and then they started to kind of figure it out. And you saw Mark Stone, Eichel, Chandler Stevenson, a couple of other guys kind of elevate their game. So who in this, do you see someone on Vegas, like, being kind of the beholder of their offense? Like, if this guy starts to go off, then okay, they're going to be in a good spot to compete with them.
I think it comes down to who already kind of has been going off for them, and that's going to be Jack Eichel. Yeah. I think Jack Eichel has to play a huge part in the series. I don't know if he's going to be logging the most minutes against McDavid, or they're going to make like the Carlson line kind of match up against McDavid. But then again, there's the two-headed snake in Edmonton of Draisaitl being on a line and McDavid on a line. It depends, because sometimes last series they would stack them all up. There was moments where it was Evander Kane, McDavid and Draisaitl. And to be honest, I don't think anyone in the league is stopping that. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I think Eichel's going to have to bring it up a notch. You're going to need some more from Marchessault, Riley Smith even. Like, they have some depth, like, down their wings.
For sure.
But just matching up down the middle is pretty tough.
Yeah, and I think that's a couple good things you bring up, for sure. And looking at the series price as well, like, the Oilers are pretty heavily favorited here. -150 at DraftKings, which is
especially starting on the road.
Starting on the road as well, which is very surprising.
So really, like, if Oilers were starting at home, they'd probably be like -170, 175.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to look at it as well. Right. And one other thing you brought up too, right? Like, they did go to that Draisaitl-Kane line, Draisaitl-Kane-McDavid line against LA, and it didn't end up working. But Draisaitl, man, like, this guy he's like Jimmy Butler of the NHL. It just like turns it on.
Well, especially last year too. Like, he got hurt and looked like he was limping around the ice, and like they were still getting it done.
Scoring. But yeah, he's like, I think he's third all time in points per game right now.
On the Oilers history, in NHL history.
NHL for playoff points per game right now. I think he's third or fourth, which is crazy. But yeah, the Golden Knights starting at home, even they're +130 to win this series. +1.5 is -150, which maybe is a good look considering that fact. And then the Oilers +120 to win in at least 6 games at -1.5. So I like the Oilers here again. Just offense for me is so, when you can create this much offense going up against a Vegas team that just won't be used to that, seeing like Winnipeg for the last 6 games or 5 games and then having this time off, I think it might be like there might be a little bit of a shock value. And I think in the same light of how we saw Korpisalo play really, really well, and then he started to go like this, I think there's a tipping point when you play the Edmonton Oilers 5 or 6 times in a row. That's just so much offense that they're creating. Like, you probably elevate your game for a bit, but then at one point you just start to get tired. And so if this goes, I think Edmonton will win this in 6 or 7 games. I'm just going to keep it simple and take the series price at -150. I'll pay the juice. That? I'll pay the juice. The best line is, though, at DraftKings, like 100%, -150. I've seen -170 at some other books. So if you want to bet this series, the link in the description is below. You can bet $5 on anything, get $150 in bonus bets. You could put it on some of that on this. Might as well. So if you have yet to sign up, link is in the description below. What are your thoughts on this series in terms of, are you playing a number of games? Are you taking a spread, alt spread?
Yeah. Mine's interesting because I kind of am leading Vegas, and just because of the goaltending. Like, I'm not so sure about Skinner right now. Like Sura mentioned earlier, -2.5 goal saved above expected. Like, that's been so bad. And Vegas throughout the whole year is converting their high danger chances at a higher percent than like pretty much anyone right now, at almost 14%. The league average is about 12.5. So I think that'll be a good edge too. And just for the price at 135, I think that's a pretty good value. They are starting at home. They're not really getting much respect right now. Everyone had the Oilers going to the Cup final. Maybe that's true because everyone also had the Bruins, and the Bruins fell out right away. Usually there's one team that kind of makes a decent run here, but at this point in the playoffs too, it's all about goaltending. And I'm not saying Brossoit is the savior, but I don't know much about Skinner, and I think it's pretty even between the two there. So I think taking a shot at Vegas is worth it.
Yeah, I would say Brossoit probably has the upper hand at this point in terms of how they both played in that first series. And Vegas scores on a low volume of shots. Like, their shooting percentage, I think, was one of the highest in that first round. So around like 11 or 12%. But it was consistent throughout the season. So there's no reason to believe that's not really going to happen. And especially a goalie like Stuart Skinner, it's even more like probable to happen. So I don't hate that take. I'm still going to roll with the Oilers. Let us know where you guys are making your picks for this series. Again, if you're looking to sign up for DraftKings, that link is below in the description. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Enjoy round 2 of the NHL playoffs.